what we have so far is, of course, you can randomize, and it's just spacebar to randomize, and it's counting up and iterating up every time you randomize. So when you start it and stop it, it literally starts off and randomizes the first one. So I need to add enumerated modes and add some modes in there so that we can properly deal with the modes. Right now, this drop down mode is the configuration for how it randomizes or how it's exporting. So we have a few modes right now. There's just randomize all mode, randomize all layers, and then or we can go in and do like a roll, which is going to randomize over 100, and then it ends on the 100th one, and then it kind of finishes, and that's that. And we have another mode which does a batch export where you go to batch, and after you've configured it over here under batch export, you can say how many do you want, and let's just do uh let's take a look here. I might have some already exported, so let me clear out the cache just so it makes sense. I have a few here. VRMs. Sorry about that. And then the JSON, I'll put. So say I want 10, configuring 10 for the batch export, and you can go ahead and hit batch. And it's going to go ahead and go through all these and generate 10, batch out the export. Actually, I just noticed a bug because it starts off on 1, and when I batch 10, it actually counted up. So the batch needs to actually reset. That's fine. But there's that. So let's look at the folder of what it outputted.
You may want to also drag and drop into the Webverse app just to test.
For sure. Yep. Sounds good. I don't have a. Can I send you the file because I don't have a local version running, but I'll send it to you, and you can do that for me if you could.
Sure.
But I have a.
Yeah.
So here's some of our folder outputs. We got the VRMs, of course, and I notice it's counting past that 1, so it's good we just found that bug. 'Cause I just fixed it because before when it started on 0 and it wasn't fully randomized. So calling it once probably isn't the best solution. I just need to do some other initialization. But if we do GLB here and we look at it, it's good. There's something going on with the shader we picked the other day. If you notice, it has this little weird shader on this output,
Yeah.
but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So that's a couple other bugs. So there's the shader little issue, but all of them they work. And then the JSON output. Sorry, where's that at here? JSON. It makes the text files. I didn't name them the right format, like the extension, but it's proper. They're not JSON extensions, but all the JSON there got created with the layers. That's a quick overview, and then it also creates an image. And I'll show you how this works in a second here. This is kind of what it does in batch mode. It batches all 3, does the whole thing, and that's just a light from some bad lighting in there. So the way it actually is working, right, is there's these things called random. Well, first of all, there's the DNA manager. The DNA manager takes references to all these randomization scripts. So for each layer, it requires a script, and each script is configured. And then once all those scripts are configured, it puts this all together and then makes a string concatenator function and puts it all together to make the JSON output. So as it creates a random one, it keeps a track of a list, a dictionary list, and it makes a long string of all the traits as its DNA. So when you make a new one, it makes another one in the list, and this is how I'm trying to track the duplicate so it won't do a duplicate. So we have it creating a unique thing, adding it to the list, and here's a template or an example of the JSON output preview here that it makes as we generate. So that's all there, looking good, and then we would change the external URLs and the title and description there, and yeah. And long story short, we name the traits here, like the actual traits, the labels we see over here when we hit, and then because they fill up, and then every time we hit actually no, I'm sorry, these are the actual current traits of the one we've randomized. It's just feedback on that. So let's look into the randomization. So that's how it creates the string DNA, and these all work together. They're the DNA manager is referenced because it keeps track of the generation ID and a few things. So there might be ways to optimize, but So far, this is the logic of how it constructs. So the
What do you mean by what can be optimized? Sorry.
I think it like maybe where we like the generation ID or like certain variables, whether they're public or private, and how we design these scripts. It could be maybe I don't know, just rethought out like it works, but the way I did the logic, I just think that maybe to make it more modular and more portable, maybe to work in different languages, I could have approached it differently, but it works. So what I mean by that is over here on the randomization scripts, like these work this way. So you have a weighted value and a name. I mean a value and a weight. So plunger hat, will come in 1% chance versus the boombox head 1 and 2 and 3 have these different values. And it's just kind of like an average of these values. And the code itself is here. And you can take a look at actually how it generates the weight. But it basically the way that it
And that's
works.
for the randomization scripts 1 through all those layers. You can program the weights for each trait that you have in terms of your asset pack.
Yeah, exactly. So
For
the asset
rarity.
pack, right. So say you have a bunch of traits and you all want them to be you want them to show them up a little bit more than the others. You'd have a higher number and it would show up more. The plunger shows up a lot less. If I hit play, the plunger like barely shows up, right? Going through a lot now. It still hasn't shown up as a 1. So eventually it might show up. I just flew past it, but it showed up. But see, it took at least 50 before one plunger showed up, right? So you can wait, kind of guide which one you want. And we'll get into super rules later, but this is the basic way to weight the values, right? Then once you weight them, you make references to them. So like the actual plunger over here is in the hierarchy. There's a plunger and all the layers, all the different boom boxes there. So I just make references to all the actual layers. And they're all disabled, and the one that's generated is shown, and by default one's on.
You can
Uh,
export a scene file too, not just JSON for NFTs and VRM, but also a
yes.
Webaverse scene.
Yeah, we can export a Webaverse scene. I started a prototype on the JSON format and structure of Webaverse. I just need to figure out how to a hosting solution when we export, like how to quickly like host all those files and use a file naming schema that'll work, because it will require just a bunch of renaming in the file for the directories of where the assets are. But if I can figure out like a way to push this to the right configuration of the directories, essentially, ideally, yeah, we could export right from here and have all the proper objects properly labeled. It was just work. There's some other functions in here that gather all the scene data, and I was trying to work on that. But the next thing would be to figure out which data in the scene is compatible with Webaverse, and then include those in the JSON output, and then also export each of those items. Because if it's a light, it doesn't need the actual light. You guys have lights over there, so you can construct the light in the scene file, but just designing the output mechanism will have to do that. But so far
Sorry.
we can.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Like, how is it related to the scene? I mean, we're talking about the avatar,
Oh,
right? So I'm sorry if
yeah, no,
I'm.
yeah, sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to jump in. So the avatar is we do the weighted stuff. It could be any layers really. So this is just a 3D layer in this whole scene. So if I go
Yeah.
over to a like another a scene I have here, the shipping container scene, and
Yeah.
here it's they're
Oh,
all
right.
just
So you're saying that it's not just for like avatars. It could be for anything, right? Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah,
We can use it for like 3D spaces as well.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and
This
I
is
think
yeah,
this will be so
like,
sick if the reveal experience
yeah,
was
yeah,
like Storage Wars, where you open up this container and you get your avatar with a home space.
yeah. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. And you can start reskinning it, right? Like we can
yep,
have different skins. Oh, amazing. Okay, this is
definitely.
cool.
So we'll go back just quickly over back here because this one is like
I
kind of
have a
more
lot of
built up.
questions, by the way, but I'm just noting them down right now, and I'll
Sure,
ask them once you're done with your debrief first.
sure thing. Yeah. So the data types, all these are layers. The first, if I go back and look at some of these configuration layers, the scripts, where are they? Randomization scripts. There's a main thing called scripts, and everything, all the configurations is in there. But these layers, these first 7 layers, these are all pretty much instances of this one script configured for turning on and off game object layers, right? Because it's a simple thing. These are just layers positioned in 3D space. And in the case of an avatar, they're on the bones. So when we export them, the VRM exporter knows actually to look through the hierarchy of all the bones and give us an export. We'll get to the example in Webaverse of one of those VRMs working real shortly. Let me just go through how these randomizations work. Each one randomizes, does a thing, creates the stuff, and then once we get to randomize all takes like a reference of all the randomizers, and then what it does is it basically calls those random checks on all those. But if you notice, the background and the texture, those are different. Those are different functions. These are all an array of like the same type of data type. We're randomizing game objects. So down here we're randomizing textures. So I had to write a different version. So that is it's a little bit redundant, and it needs to be refactored out. Like it should be basically able to take any data type and randomize it, and then we can take instances of that script, and then it would be just a little bit more modular. In this case, if you want to randomize sound, you'd have to like make a new version of this script that handles randomization of sound. It would work exactly the same. It's just the data types, in the layers of the randomizers currently are, if I can find it, randomization. If you look at the objects, these are game objects. So these game objects aren't like movie clips, but I did a recent one on, let me just show you real quick. I got in Super Rare. Super Rare. I customized the actual version of this whole app to make me to do an art piece. I kind of like hacked it up and added video data types, and I was able to produce this.
Nice.
So it's like the same tool. I just changed one of those scripts to do video data type. So
I'm
if
gonna mend this.
Thanks.
I'll try this.
Thanks. It's cool, man. So that's that part. So we have all that, and it's it can be okay. So the output gets saved, and yeah, we could do one at a time. So you want to just change the glasses, you could do that. That'll change the one layer, or you can do all of them. And yeah, the batches, Unity VRM, and see if I have anything else here. The super rules is an idea where like this isn't finished; it's work in progress, but we would basically say things like if the boombox head appears over the eyes, then exclude all of these other objects. And if that condition happens, do an override, and then basically adjust the output, adjust the strings, and then like have this cascade properly. Like, because for instance, like if we covered, some certain collections have rules where like certain things will happen. Like for instance, if 2 or 3 objects appear, then include something else. Like if you had like, say, I don't know, a golden thing and this golden thing and that golden thing. Well, you had a trifecta, so give you the golden belt if that happens, right? That might happen. Then there's also, if all of these objects appear, then make sure to exclude these other ones. So if like, if he's already gotten, say, a golden key or some valuable one that's really hard to get, then maybe there would be no reason that he would ever get something else. So you would exclude those, or like say there's a certain thing that you really wanted to only happen once. You could use this for that. So this isn't finished, but it's all referenced up and ready to go. And I'm just like trying to work out the logic on that, because it's totally the last part to make this like a super machine. Because if you can add those overrides and exclusions and special stuff in, you can really have a lot of flexibility. So that's we got to do that. But for now, we haven't been overlapping. But if you notice, if we do it like right now, he has glasses. I'm trying to zoom in over here. He's got a boombox on his head, but he's got glasses, and the glasses are randomizing when the boombox is overhead. Like maybe he shouldn't have glasses when. So another way to solve this is just have the boombox and the glasses in the same layer, and then there's no problem, right? So you can extrapolate this problem with a workaround by using only layers that solve your conditions, and you can have a whole bunch of layers, and really do it that way. But to programmatically do it and to adjust it is a thing. So, and another thing is we can't go back once we like generate one. I can't go back to number 9 unless I've actually exported it to the drive. But if I'm just random, see, there you go. See, you liked it, but like, see, we just lost. So that's one. All these features and then I want batch saving. Like, say I do a batch of 10. Well, it should make a folder and put it, and I should name it, and it should actually like properly save that batch. And then I can tomorrow do another batch and say, all these things haven't been coded in, but the potential is there to finish the tool to do things like that. But you know, if it's running in the editor, it might not be the best place to do that. Like making a build where you can drag and drop items and make it a whole character creator could happen. But for right now, just to keep it simple, it makes VRMs. It can randomize world stuff, and as long as we have all the assets and define all the layers, we can generate this stuff after fixing, of course, the bugs. But production ready, I would say it's ready to go to make NFTs. It's just now that we went through that and we found a few stuff, we have to. I've been waiting for the assets. I want to put like a bunch of assets into this, get all the layer traits, and like get our base mesh in there and start running it and run into these things. Because as soon as we do that, we're going to probably say, oh, can you maybe do this? And once we get to that point and solve some actual use cases and finish a couple small runs, I think we'll hit, we'll be at a good place. But we're getting close. What do you guys think?
I mean, this is great. And I think if you need any help, I can get you some devs as well as artists for experimentation, etc. Now I have a few questions, right? Like,
Sure.
will it work for like things like shape keys as well?
Shape keys, interesting. Yeah, it should. I guess a shape key is just a blend shape, and if we were to turn on animations, it does work. So if I hit play, I have randomized animations in a test because they're just another data type. You just go through the clips and program it to have, say, another trait that says animation, and then you'd load in all the different animation clips and program it in to switch in the animator. So right now, the avatar itself has an animator. If I turn it on, he's gonna start doing some fucking dancing. but yes, you could
You
inside
can export
the
this
animator.
as a video too.
The video, that one, you were telling the truth, but I haven't programmed that in the window. There's a recorder that gets very good video output of this, but I need to program in the length of the video output and get the length of the animation and try to come up with a solution where the video output understands the length of the animation loop. Because as is right now, you can get videos out of here. You just have to use there's a video player here. Where is it called again? Somewhere around here.
And I guess
recorder.
Also when it comes to shape keys, we're using base meshes that are, these voxel characters. But if we use the Vroid base, for example, it should automatically, because we're using the UniVRM, it should just work.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, we have UniVRM, so whatever data type the shape keys are in, we can essentially randomize though. But if you wanted to like say make an animation and have it like go to like play the shape key, like do the smile or do whatever the shape key is, we'd have to actually play that we'd have to trigger the shape key and then export it, because it's like an order of operations issue. Like if I was to export this animation right here and hit the batch button, like, I don't know. It's like, let's, you want to see what happens? Let's do it. Boom. So he's still animating and it's exporting it through the animation. That's what happened.
Right.
What kind of images just came out of that?
That was good. Let's check this out. Let's take a look. That might be a good way to actually get a good variation. We just animate all the poses and just randomize every frame to a new pose and kind of hack it that way, where every single frame it's another another shape key or pose, and then you just
let's take a look.
But let's take a look. Where is it at here? Streaming. Put it in the streaming assets folder because it doesn't re-import itself. Thank God, because sometimes if it's in any other folder, it starts re-importing everything we just exported, which was a bad mistake when I exported 100. So the images. Yeah, they're all just slightly different.
Oh, they do. Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah, a little bit of variation in the each of them. I bet basically we could do like poses then that way. So
yeah,
we can vary it all with poses.
Yeah. So now the
Do you want
The
to send me
VRM is
one of
in.
those?
Well, these are not good now because they're all
Why don't
they're
we
not
test? I would love to test, see what not good looks like.
It's gonna come in like this.
Whoa, that's so cool though. Dude, you
See what
gotta
I'm saying?
admit that's a sculpture.
Yeah.
It is cool. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If we knew what if we were, that's
That-
interesting. When the animation can be blend, it could be anything that it spits out, I guess, as a sculpture. But if you want the T pose, we
Send me
could
the
code it like this.
VRM. Send me one of those as a VRM. I
One of
want to
those?
see what happens in Webverse.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna send you number 8.
Yeah.
You're coming down the line. Okay, so if we export it, in T pose without hitting it, like right now, if we export it, right, uh, we'd have to turn the animation on and then export it again, which stops us from getting all those variations. So it has to track all of the things it does. It can like go through 100 of them, but if it can't go in reverse, it can't go back and then animate each one, right? So the main bug of this whole system is it's not able to go in reverse. That's like crucially a design flaw, and that needs to be solved. But that's not too hard to solve. It's just a matter of logic and tracking the DNA of everything and being able to call up the DNA and be able to recall all this information. Since we've generated it, I like logically we should be able to go in reverse. I just need a little help with that. Shouldn't be too bad, but it's just
I have it loaded up and it is very wacky.
Look at that, dude. Oh my god, look, that's funny, dude. Going hard. Okay, so that's funny. But yeah, if you export it with T-pose, it'll actually work normally. So let's do that just for posterity.
Yeah,
Play.
T-pose should be normal, but
well, I'll delete all those.
result.
So, but yeah, you can essentially randomize animations and parameters, right? Parameters are drivers for animations. So like not only could you animate the animations or the blend keys, you could animate between them, like a blend between two animations. So you could say like, I could randomize a number between 0 and 1. And based on that number, we can have 3 animations and that number is a range. So like, you can animate across a range of animations or at least randomize across all of that. If you really wanted to build out the animation randomizer, it's interesting because it seems endless at that point of what you could really generate out of that thing. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, so we can move on to your next questions if you have any. I don't have to keep going about that. Oh, I want to export this though. Is that a good one? Yeah, I'll get you one. I'll give you a boombox head. Okay. And if you want to export just one, you just literally go down here to VRM and export, and it'll just do one, which is useful.
So Jim was mentioning that there's some optimization step which is remaining, and it was discussed with Moon.
Yeah.
So could you explain to me which one is it? Maybe you already did cover, but
No, sure. That's the output of the VRMs. I have gone through and made all the textures like 1024 by 1024, and the file sizes are quite small. This one's like 9 megabytes. This last one I just sent you is 5 megabytes. So they're actually starting to be really optimized after I've optimized all my textures. But what he's referring to is right now, if you unpack the GTLF, there's like at the time I had normal maps, I had, roughness maps, and in full version 4K textures with all this stuff, it comes in at like a whopping 60 megabytes per VRM. But
yeah.
he's talking about, I guess, texture atlasing and baking all that down into one texture, maybe with a normal map. We haven't talked about it, but I think he's referring to making it to where it's all one draw call. So it's all one thing and it's all one mesh and it's all one texture that way. Because right now, if you open up these objects in a GTLF validator, you'll probably see that they have some things. And also, I wanted to bring up, yeah, true. If we can get, yeah, that brings us So one thing that needs to be worked on is the export options panel, and this whole UI is great and everything, but it needs to be fixed to where there's modes, right? Like the different modes here is fine, but it really should be an enumerator with real states so that this machine's properly working in those states. And then the export options to configure these exports, including if we're using Three.js or the Needle tools, or if we're using the VRMs or whatever. And then another bug is just the dependency on UniVRM. I wrote let me find the output script here just to show exactly what the problem is.
UniVRM is standard though. It's like the reference
Everything's
spec.
good. It's great. If you notice over here, VRM runtime exporter 1, I copied their script over, made a duplicate, and adjusted it and made the hard-coded changes I needed for their stuff to work with my stuff.
Oh, I see.
That's not good. So, well, because they can update their program, and this will probably still work. But if they change any, you know what I mean? There's a dependency future error here. So all I have to do is make it. I should have made an instance of the script and then access it through the instance, but instead I literally made an instance of it, right? So that's one bug I'll clean up eventually, well, sooner than later, because it's the exporter. But we have to decide what other exporters, Needle tools, this and that, and all these options. So exporting and keeping it in Unity is a thing.
I think we have so much already, more than where the bar is in terms of standards.
Yeah.
Like so CloneX would release the renders, and then they released the 3D files 8 months later, and now we have the ability to do both at the same time. But also the randomization can go into home spaces and scenes, and just basically I feel like it's all there.
Crazy. Yeah, it just needs a little rework on the UI, a little logic fix up. These are quality of life things, but it can, the right artists, right assets, and the right just all the layers. I'll manually add 50 to. I'll add 400 layers. I don't care. It's just going to take someone like I guess me right now to be able to extend the layers, because even this one, I threw all these layers in here.
I will learn with you. I have this set up and happy to.
Yeah.
Work on this.
But if the ultimate goal is able to literally hit add layer, and it constructs all the layer, and it says, well, what data type is the layer? Is it a sound? Is it is it this or is it that? And by configuring a layer addition button, you could then, really stack this out, and it would be one array of traits instead of having to right now just I'm just kind of eating it, just ripping it apart, so you can see real true scope of where we're at. This is it's work in progress, but where's that one tool? Oh, it's the scenes. Sorry. Just go over to the other scene real quick. This shipping container was the newest thing. That's why it's not fully mixed, fixed. This one's very nicely cleaned up and everything's there. The other one's real work in progress, but it's almost more useful to have a loot crate that can randomize stuff inside it. But in that case, it needs to export not only the main GLB, but also the sub contents. So that's in reference to, say he has a weapon on his back, and in Webiverse, you guys have a different weapon system. So if you bring in one of these guys in the Webiverse, that's not connected, but
metaverse files. So in your home space, the weapons, maybe it's on the wall and you can walk up to it and equip it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, maybe when we export it, it says you can pick which ones are included in the VRM, or which objects or wearables that might come. Literally, you're just exporting them as the GLBs, because in Webiverse, with Rick's bots coming in, we're not going to randomize the weapon trait. We're going to basically leave it. We're going to randomize what weapon it is, but we're going to leave it empty, and then later people are going to claim the weapon, right? Because it can't be included.
That's cool.
I think that's what they're discussing, but because it's that's just one thing to think about, is when you export a VRM, these things are stuck to the body, right?
I think it'd be interesting to think of it in terms of, this is kind of like a bundled loot bag, and you can basically acquire the things into your inventory per se.
Exactly. And then with the right metadata, right thumbnails, and the right, I guess, delivery mechanism in a package. Right now you have all these, you have 3 directories, it exports everything kind of in a mess here. They're in order, but it's like, it needs to be like all exported into thing and then zipped up and then like, really, and then packaged up really. So that's where we're at. There's a little bit of manual work at the end because it's not web based. You can't generate live before Mint. No integration to Web3. But some of the code in here I do think is pretty readable. We can rewrite this all.
Tool. So, like what Moon has is more like for users. This is more for dev teams to use.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have any more questions? And I love the questions. It really helps out.
I think this is great. My only question is, what help support do you need to make sure that it's 100% production ready? And then we start talking about how we move forward with it. I have a few initial plans. How we can do it. So I'll discuss it, offline with you and Jen once I've hashed out a few ideas, hopefully today/tomorrow.
Cool.
But yeah, just let us know what kind of support help you need, and I'll get you more people.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And I'll scope it out more. And now that we talked about it, I'll try to go in and write down some of those issues and, get it really scoped out. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's just a couple. If I'm trying to think off the top of my head who that might be, maybe just like a badass Unity engineer. And Moon is incredible. He's actually a badass Unity engineer. So
I'll get you someone. I mean, Moon has other things on his plate as well. I'll discuss with Moon, and I'll get you someone.
Cool, man. Yeah, then I think we'll make it happen. And there's other projects we're gonna battle test it with too, real soon here. So this is great, man. It's heating up, and Boom Tools is ready to explode. But I'm happy for you guys to fork it. Take a copy of it if you need access to it, or have an engineer that wants to work with it. Just let me know. Because
my thought process was on this that we'll be doing like almost like a free airdrop using this, and the royalty will be split between the creators, the tool maker, and Webaverse as the distributor.
Sounds great. That sounds cool.
Yeah. So that is, and we just have to like hash it out and how we can make it more of a protocol/process in which we can tell people, hey, listen, this is how you have to make the layers first, this is how you have to upload them, and this is what you get at the end, right? And then we can have like a smart contract template built in, so where they can add their address. Our address is already added up, and then they just click hit and it's done. Something like that. And as the starters, I was thinking that for the top 3 communities, we can start off with the WASIs for this, because I know that the WASIs, and I'm in talks with them, they already have the layers, and it's like we're friendly with them. It's easy for us to work with them, experiment with them as the first one. And yeah, once that is done, then we can open it up to broader creators as well.
Cool. That sounds incredible, man. That's a great plan, and I love that. I love those. I love the WASIs, so that would be fun. And dude, I'm really happy that you took the time to come check it out. And if there's any other questions you guys have, I'm glad to answer them. Or if you guys want to,
no, I'll just get you the support you need. We'll get you the engineers. Hopefully, by tomorrow when you wake up, you'll have someone. And let's get it to the finish line. I mean, it already is there, right? Like it's just like tightening it up, making sure it works. And
we're gonna make some bug reports.
Cases. Yeah, make sure that it works in corner cases and all, and then I think we're good.
Awesome.
All right, sir. It was great. Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch.